Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, let's dive into something we all struggle with, especially these days. Focus. Or, well, maybe more like losing
That's
focus.
tough, right?
You're trying to get things
To sit down, all ready to go.
but
What?
then,
Distractions.
exactly. So you came here wanting to learn how to improve your focus, and I think we might have just the thing. We're taking inspiration from, get this, a kids show.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You know how kids shows just have a way of making learning fun?
Right, they make it so engaging.
Well, we're taking a page from their book today. Our source material is a segment from this podcast called TheDot, and it's designed to help kids learn.
Cool.
Their episode is all about how to tame distractions. So we're going to deep dive into it, and the real question is, can the tips from this kids podcast actually work for us adults?
I mean, it's a fascinating question, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they're even making a show for kids about focus says something about how important this skill is becoming.
I know, if kids are being taught about focus in such a fun way, what does that tell us about, how important this skill is for everybody in today's world?
Right, it's like essential almost.
Totally. But okay, let's jump into the episode. I have to admit, I was actually charmed by the format. It's hosted by the super enthusiastic character. They call him Captain Focus.
Of it.
And he has this owl sidekick named Pixel.
Oh, an owl. That's adorable. Plus, I mean, think about it. The owl, the symbol of wisdom.
Right.
They really know how to pick a mascot. I bet it helps make the learning stick for the kids.
Oh, for sure. And, they use all these sound effects and games, which honestly, I kind of enjoyed, even as an adult. But gimmicks aside, the dot starts off with a surprisingly insightful definition of distraction. They call it anything that tries to steal your attention.
I like that. It puts it in such a concrete way.
Ah,
Because it's not always the obvious things, right?
it's true. Like, yeah, we've got the noise, the notifications, but it's also our own thoughts, our
Mhm.
worries. Those can be distractions too.
Oh, 100%.
Mhm.
In fact, sometimes those internal distractions are even more sneaky.
Oh, yeah. You think you're being productive, but you're really just getting sidetracked by your own thoughts.
Exactly.
As I was listening to the dot, I started making this mental list of my own attention stealers, and it was surprising how many were actually internal. Like, that feeling of like, I should be doing something else, or
Yeah.
the urge to check social media, even though I literally just did 5 minutes
I
ago.
know that feeling. It's like my brain is constantly trying to pull me in a million different directions.
Right. So, how do we fight back against these attention stealers, both internal and external? Well, the dot has this, I don't know, awesome mnemonic device, I guess you'd call it, called the focus code.
Focus code, huh?
Yeah, it's basically 5 strategies for staying on track, but they've turned it into this catchy acronym that even kids can remember. And let me tell you, I was impressed. Even as an adult, I found myself thinking, okay, this is actually pretty good.
I love a good mnemonic device. They just work, even for us grown-ups.
I know, right? So the first letter, F, stands for find your zone. They make a big deal about creating a dedicated workspace. Captain Focus calls it a focus fortress.
So like having your own special spot where you go to work.
Yes, a space that signals to your brain, okay, time to focus now. But I'm curious, I know you're a big fan of working from coffee shops, so what do you think? Do you need a dedicated workspace to be focused?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, I do love the buzz of a coffee shop. And sometimes that energy actually helps me get in the zone.
Right.
But if I'm doing deep work,
Yeah.
something that needs serious concentration,
Yeah.
yeah, then I need a quieter space. I guess I'm proof that you can kind of adapt that find your zone principle.
Totally. So it's not necessarily about having a home office. It's about being intentional about the space you're working in. Like finding an environment that supports your focus, whether that's a library, a park bench, or even just a quiet corner of your house.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Our environment can have a huge impact on our ability to concentrate.
Totally. Okay, so F is for find your zone. The next letter in the focus code is O, which stands for organized tools. The dot really emphasizes having everything you need ready to go before you even start working. So like, no more wasting time searching for a pen or a charger in the middle of a task.
I mean, that's brilliant. How many times have we lost our train of thought because we had to stop and look for something? It's so frustrating.
I know, it's like just as I'm getting in the groove, bam, my focus just evaporates.
And it feels like such a small thing.
Yeah.
But those little disruptions can really add up over time.
They totally do. So this organized tools principle is all about setting yourself up for success from the get-go, removing those potential obstacles, making sure you have your pens, your notes, your laptop charger, whatever it is you need, all within reach.
Makes sense. It's like prepping all your ingredients before you start cooking.
Mm.
You're much less likely to get flustered mid-recipe.
Exactly. Okay, but before we go full Marie Kondo on our workspaces, let's move on to the next letter in the focus code, which is C for chunk it.
Chunk it.
Yeah, so this is where the dot introduces the idea of working for like 15 to 20 minutes
Okay.
and then taking a 5-minute break.
Oh, like that Pomodoro technique.
Exactly. It's a modified version of that, but they make it fun for the kids. They'll say things like, "Can you beat the timer?" Or, "Let's see how much you can get done before the alarm goes off."
Oh, that's smart. Using a game to teach time management, kids are way more likely to stay engaged that way.
Totally. And the great thing about this technique, whether you're a kid or an adult, is that it's adaptable. You can adjust the work intervals and the break times to suit your needs and the type of work you're doing.
So it's not about being rigid with the time, it's more about finding a rhythm that works for you.
Exactly. So the key takeaway here is to be mindful of your energy levels and attention span and create a system that maximizes your focus and productivity.
It's about working with your brain, not against it.
Totally. Okay, we'll continue talking about the focus code after a short break.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back.
Can't wait to hear what the U and S stand for.
Me too.
You know, it's amazing how just breaking your work into chunks like that can make such a big difference.
It really does. I used to try and power through for hours, and I just end up feeling exhausted and getting way less done.
Right. Our brains just aren't meant to stay focused for that long.
Totally. We need those breaks. It's like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. Gives you a chance to recharge and come back feeling refreshed.
So, to recap, we've got F for find your zone, O for organize tools, and C for chunk it. What's next in the focus code?
Okay, so the U stands for use magic words.
Oh, I loved this part.
Right. It's such a fun way to teach kids about setting boundaries.
They even gave examples in the dot, like, "I'm on a mission, I'll talk to you later," or "My brain is working hard right now, maybe we can play after."
So cute. Though I'm not sure how well those would work in an office setting.
Huh. Yeah, imagine telling your boss, "My brain is working hard right now." I mean, you probably wouldn't get away with that.
But I think the underlying principle is so important.
For sure.
It's about communicating your need for focus, even if you can't use those exact words.
Right. Which can be tough, especially in a workplace where everyone's always busy.
It's like you almost feel bad for saying, hey, I need some quiet time to concentrate.
I know. But the reality is, we can't do our best work if we're constantly being interrupted.
Absolutely. So what do we do? How do we set those boundaries without, being rude?
Right. We can't exactly put a do not disturb sign on our desks.
Well, I mean, some people actually do that,
Really?
and it works. But yeah, I think it's more about being clear with your coworkers, like letting them know you're going heads down on a project for the next hour, or maybe scheduling specific times to check email so you're not constantly being bombarded by notifications.
Oh, I like that. I actually started scheduling focus blocks in my calendar, and it's been amazing.
No way, me too.
It's like I treat those blocks as sacred, just like any other appointment.
That's such a good idea.
So, yeah, even though we might not be using the exact magic words from the dot, the principle still applies.
Totally. It's a skill, learning to set those boundaries.
But it's so worth it.
It makes such a difference.
Okay, we're down to the last letter in the focus code, S for small rewards.
Ooh, I like this one. So important to celebrate the wins.
I know. The dot encourages kids to, do a little dance break or have a healthy snack when they finish a task.
It's all about that positive reinforcement.
But how do we translate that to adulthood? I mean, I love a good chocolate break, but that's probably not the best reward every time.
Right, maybe not the healthiest.
So what are some other ways we can reward ourselves? Ways that are, both enjoyable and good for us.
I think it's really about finding things that feel genuinely rewarding to you. It doesn't have to be anything big.
Right.
Like maybe it's taking a 5-minute walk outside, or listening to your favorite song, or even just calling a friend for a quick chat.
Those are great ideas. This whole conversation is making me realize how much I've neglected the fun part of my work life.
It's so easy to get caught up in just getting things done.
And forget to, actually enjoy the process. I used to be so much better at incorporating fun and rewards into my day.
We all need a little play in our lives.
That's what TheDot was saying, too. They emphasize the power of games.
Oh yeah, they had those games like Silent Spy Mission and Alien Alphabet Attack.
Which are, specifically designed to make focus training fun.
Right. And even though those games are for kids, I think there's something to be said for incorporating play into our work as adults, too.
Totally. Like we could use brain training apps or puzzles or even just get creative with something like drawing or doodling.
It takes the pressure off, You're not forcing yourself to focus, you're just having fun.
And in the process, you're actually improving your focus.
Exactly. I love that.
So maybe the key to taming distractions as adults is to tap into our inner child.
Oh, I love that. That sense of wonder and curiosity.
Yes, it's rediscovering that playfulness we often lose as we get older.
So important because when we're engaged and having fun, focus comes naturally.
This is all really resonating with me. But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one more concept from the DOT that I want to highlight.
Okay, which one?
It's their superpower tip.
Oh, yeah. Ask for help. Simple, but so powerful.
I know. And yet, so many of us struggle with it.
It's true. Why do you think that is? Why are we so reluctant to ask for help?
I think it's that fear of looking weak or incompetent.
Like we should be able to handle everything on our own.
Right. But the truth is, everyone needs help sometimes.
And asking for it is actually a sign of strength.
It shows you're self-aware.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
recognize your limitations and you're not afraid to reach out for support.
And it's not just about practical help either. Sometimes it's about emotional support.
Oh, absolutely. Having a network of people who encourage you and believe in you,
It makes a huge difference.
it really does. It's like having a cheerleading squad for your brain.
Okay, so we've talked about the focus code, the importance of play, and asking for help. Any other key takeaways from the DOT that we should mention?
Well, they also talked about technology, which, can be both a distraction and a tool for focus.
That's true. They mentioned noise-canceling headphones, the Forest app.
Even just turning off notifications can make a big difference.
It's all about being mindful of how we use technology.
Right. Choosing the tools that help us rather than hinder us.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. What I find really interesting is that even kids are being taught about focus these days.
It's like it's becoming a core life skill,
Right up there with reading and math.
which makes sense given the world we live in.
It's so demanding, so distracting.
Information overload everywhere you look.
Exactly. And being able to focus, to block out all that noise, is becoming more and more essential.
Like a superpower almost.
So what does this mean for us adults? Are we already behind?
I don't think it's about being behind. It's more about recognizing that focus is something we need to actively work on.
It's a skill that needs to be developed and strengthened.
And like any skill, it takes practice and effort,
We need to find the tools and strategies that work for us.
and be willing to ask for help when we need it.
Maybe we can learn a thing or two from kids.
They're the experts at play and imagination
And maybe those are the qualities we need to rediscover as adults.
to help us navigate this crazy, complex world.
A world that demands both focus and flexibility, resilience and creativity.
And maybe by embracing those qualities, we can not only survive, but thrive.
And who knows, maybe even rediscover the joy of learning and creating along the way.
So much good stuff in that episode,
Yeah.
even for us adults, right?
I know. So many takeaways. I feel like if we had to really boil it down to one key message for our listeners, what would it be?
I think I'd say focus is a skill, not a talent.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not something you're born with or without. Anyone can learn to be more focused.
Right. It just takes effort and practice.
Like learning to play an instrument or
Or speak another language.
yeah, you get better the more you do it.
And luckily, there are so many different techniques and strategies out there for improving focus.
Oh, for sure. It's just about finding the ones that work for you.
Exactly. What works for one person might not work for another.
It's true. And I think it's also worth remembering that distractions aren't always bad. We need some downtime.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Got to let our minds wander sometimes.
We need to connect with other people.
Absolutely.
So it's more about choosing our distractions consciously
I like that.
instead of, mindlessly scrolling through social media.
Hmm.
Maybe we choose to spend that time reading a book or talking to a friend.
Or just taking a few minutes to relax and recharge.
It's all about being in control.
Being the driver, not the passenger.
I love that analogy. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive on focus, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge. What's one small step you can take today to be more intentional with your focus?
Well, maybe it's creating a dedicated workspace. Like, even if it's just a small corner of your room.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Or setting boundaries with technology, like no phone after a certain time at night.
Oh, that's a good one too. Or how about incorporating some of those small rewards we were talking about?
Yes, celebrating the little wins.
Exactly. So whatever it is, start small, be consistent, and don't be afraid to try different things. Remember, Focus is a journey, not a destination.
And each step you take brings you closer to a more focused and fulfilling life.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of focus.
It's been fun.
I hope you learned some valuable tips and tricks
For taming distractions and
and reclaiming your attention.
remember, you have the power to choose where you focus your energy, and that's a superpower worth nurturing.
And on that note, we'll say